Welcome to this overview of how to get started with competitive pet placement strategies. Before we begin, consider what it's like to be a potential adopter coming to your animal shelter. Who is coming to your shelter, and what is the experience like for someone wanting to take a pet home? Who is not coming to your shelter from your community? We'll be reviewing strategies to help address these questions, plus a whole lot more. The overall goal of the Competitive Pet Placement Project, or CPP for short, is to increase placement outcomes by addressing any barriers that exist and creating an experience that potential adopters appreciate and enjoy. Barriers to adoption can range from lengthy application forms, long wait times, vet checks, to limited business hours. A barrier is really anything the public perceives as a barrier. The first phase of this project included implementation projects at 5 Haas pilot and partner shelters, as shown on the screen. This video will overview the initiatives carried out at these shelters, what we learned along the way, and how you can get started with implementing at your own organization. The CPP project included many initiatives carried out across the participating shelters. Each of these shelters implemented a foot traffic data tracking process, and in addition had a customized implementation plan based on the needs of each particular organization. These initiatives included a volunteer adoption matchmaker role, matchmaking process improvements, streamlining adopter interest forms, evaluating of an existing adoption field trip process, strategic in-person adoption event based on a heat map analysis, virtual adoption meet and greets for foster pets, and matchmaking training. This short presentation will highlight a few of these initiatives. At Charlotte Mecklenburg Animal Care and Control, a volunteer adoption matchmaker role was implemented to support a high visitor volume, which staff struggled to meet the needs of. Volunteers help staff welcome and support visitors who enter the facility with a focus on adoption-centric duties like greeting visitors, setting up adopters to visit with pets, and supporting the overall adoption process. This effort included a detailed volunteer recruitment strategy and a volunteer support package of materials. We were able to see impact from this role through data from a customer experience survey. One visitor said that although the shelter was extremely busy, the volunteers were excellent with providing information and explaining wait time. And in this chart, you can see the high participation rate of volunteers in this role. If you want to get started implementing this at your shelter, identify opportunities for volunteer integration into your adoption process. Which part of the process can they help with? Is it greeting, completing paperwork, having matchmaking conversations, facilitating the meet and greets by bringing pets to a visitation space? All of these are really good opportunities. Consider identifying experienced volunteers to help with onboarding into this role as well. Supporting volunteers in new roles is crucial in building confidence and retaining volunteers. You can also provide support by holding dedicated training and providing supportive materials like an FAQ. By outlining roles and responsibilities and keeping staff and volunteers informed, you can contribute to them working seamlessly together. Through discussions with Wisconsin Humane Society, it was determined that the Milwaukee campus needed support in their matchmaking process in terms of improving the adopter experience. They believed we could achieve this through revamping the flow of an adoption visit to focus on leading with positive pet observations. To support this, we developed a brand new process for recording positive pet notes in the shelter software. This allowed us to leverage the knowledge everyone has about the animals in their care for matchmaking. Because everyone can access this information, it no longer limits individuals to sharing about the pets they know personally. As you can see in this chart, data entry on positive pet notes has been steady and increasing over time and has contributed to positive adoption matches. Another matchmaking effort was carried out at Lifeline Animal Project and includes a technology solution. One location had already seen success implementing a matchmaking tool called Asana, so we worked together to expand the organization's use of the Asana platform to help with matchmaking at their DeKalb County Animal Services location. This tool makes it easy for all staff and volunteers to use the same platform to record and access notes on the hundreds of dogs in their care, allowing users to filter by characteristics of the pets that are important to adopters, such as friendliness to dogs, cats, and kids. And we found that 37% of the animals with observations noted in Asana were adopted, as compared to 18% for the pets without noted observations in the platform. As you've now seen in the shelters that participated in the CPP project, if you want to improve your matchmaking process, there are many avenues you can take. Here are a few considerations as you get started. Develop a place to keep track of behavioral information on the pets in your care. This place should be one that both staff and volunteers can access so that everyone can play a part in recording and using the information. This turns the animals' advocates into a collective instead of everyone working in silos limited by the knowledge of the animals you happen to know personally. Collect information that's important to adopters, including known interactions with kids, cats, and dogs. Reference this database of information anytime you work with a potential adopter. This will allow you to make pet recommendations, and visitors can look to you for guidance in their pet selection process. Evaluate the typical flow of adoption sessions. Are you leading with positive and endearing qualities of the pets in your care, or are you skipping straight to the challenges? We want to be transparent about the animal's history and care needs, but leading with the positive gives adopters a chance to make a connection with the pet. Whatever matchmaking initiative you take on, be sure to provide training to staff and volunteers, and where possible, consider creating training videos to help make the content accessible. One shelter rebranded their foster field trip program and used the opportunity to modify, streamline, and improve the program with a focus on encouraging adopters to participate by offering the program as a trial adoption or first date. This increased visibility and adoption opportunities for more shelter pets, allowing them to leave the shelter with a potential adopter temporarily, even when they were still awaiting steps in the adoption pathway, like receiving required medical care. In the first 6 months, there were 1,551 placements into the First Date program. The first step in creating your own First Date or foster field trip program is to create an operational pathway for trial adoptions. You'll need to determine eligibility criteria for program participation, identify what team will carry out this program and what manager will oversee it, determine how to track data along the way to monitor program impact, and develop a marketing and communications plan. If you have trial adoption placements that do not yield an adoption outcome, that's okay. The pet still gets a much needed break from living in the shelter environment and will be able to learn valuable behavioral information about the pet to help them find another placement. You'll want to ensure you develop a system for capturing this information so it can be easily used to help identify future placement. All shelters that participated in the CPP project launched the Foot Traffic Data Tracking Initiative. This project aims to answer two questions. Number one, how often are people coming to shelters to adopt and not adopting? And number two, if someone came in intending to adopt and did not, why is that? The basic process for this foot traffic data tracking included setting up a QR code check-in form that allowed visitors to self-check in and get in a virtual line. This created a queue for staff to monitor. We learned valuable information from staff who recorded a response from visitors before they left, asking them about their experience, and if they didn't leave with a pet today, what contributed to that. Clients are also prompted to fill out a survey to help us learn more about their experience. And hosts set up data dashboards to monitor the visitor experience and rate of adoption compared to the amount of visitors. Here's what we learned about our first question. How often are people coming to shelters to adopt and not adopting? Shelters with the lowest rate were 8%. Shelters with the highest rate of adoption were 51%. So on average, about 1 in 3 potential adopters did take a pet home the same day. Here's what we learned about our second question. If someone came in intending to adopt and did not, why not? There were a range of reasons, including that the client was still making a decision, the pet isn't ready to leave, that they didn't have the pet available that they were looking for, whether that be to size, age, or breed, etc. Knowing this information has allowed the participating shelters to strategize ways to address these factors. If you want to get started with tracking foot traffic at your shelter, here are a few guidelines to help you get started. You'll want to determine a technology solution for tracking this data and identify a location at your shelter where it makes sense to collect it. You'll want to consider things like multiple entrances and determining what works best for your operations and layout. Who will be responsible and oversee data completeness? It's always a challenge starting something new, so you'll want to ensure someone is taking ownership of the process and monitoring the data. Train staff and volunteers on how to utilize a digital waitlist. Gather feedback on why people are leaving without a pet, and use the results to manage and improve your adoption program. For example, you could determine your busiest days and times of the week and match your staffing and volunteer levels accordingly. Lastly, set goals for improving your adoption conversion rate to work toward increasing the amount of people leaving your shelter with a pet on their first visit. We have many resources available to you to help you get started with the initiatives carried out in the Competitive Pet Placement Project. They're all available for free at humananimalsupportservices.org, and you can use the QR code on the screen to go there directly. You'll find helpful tools to help you get started, including the barrier busting checklist, detailed results in case studies, and how-to guides for all CPP initiatives, with even more content than is included in this short video. If you want to chat with the Haas team about the CPP project initiatives, you can reach out to us at haas-project@americanpetsalive.org. Thanks for watching.